Morning.
Good morning. Nice dryer.
Lose this. Can we lose this chair, sir? Can we lose this?
Is Mr. Dwyer coming?
I'll discuss that with the judge.
All rise for the Honorable Judge Simzik.
Court is now in session. Case the People State of California versus Timothy Richard Heidecker, case number 02-CF025, continuing. Please be seated.
Your Honor, may I approach the bench?
Yes, Mr. Heidecker, you may.
I've had issues with Mark Dwyer. So I'm going to be, as we discussed, we're going to be representing myself.
Excuse me, Your Honor, this is highly unusual.
Mr. Rossetti, if you give us just a second here, please. I understand your objection.
I feel like I'm the best person for this job. I can be able to represent myself.
Okay. Mr. Heidecker, I must advise you. There are many risks involved.
I understand. There was no way I was going to continue with Mark. And I think this is the best course of action. So unless I would like to proceed with my own defense. Okay. It's my right.
Mr. Heidecker, understand something. I will allow you some latitude. Okay. But I expect the same level of decorum and courtesy that I'd expect from a member of the bar from you.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. Mr. Cisnik. We good? If it pleases the court, I would appreciate the opportunity to make a new opening statement.
Yeah,
Briefly.
Briefly.
Thank you.
Mr. Heidecker has terminated his relationship with Mr. Dwyer, and he'll be representing himself in this matter. The court has advised Mr. Heidecker that we expect the same level of decorum that we would expect of a member of the bar of California.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to the prosecution for all the work they do for the for the San Bernardino County. We appreciate it. Jury, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, thank you very much for your time in this important case. I first would just request that you disregard the statements of Mr. Dwyer from the past, from yesterday. He was not a good fit, and also, I believe, had other, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but there were...
Excuse me, Your Honor, I have a problem with Mr. Heidecker representing himself. I'm concerned about a mistrial. He's obviously incompetent.
I am competent, Your Honor.
Incapable of representing himself.
Please, if I may continue.
Nonetheless, he has the right under the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of the State of California to proceed as his own counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Whatever reservations others may have.
As you say.
And let's just acknowledge and thank our judge here, Judge Cisnik. I was making a joke with my brothers over here that I feel like I'm on Wheel of Fortune, and we should say, can I buy a vowel because of the last name, but we're just a joke. Nothing more than a joke, folks. Lighting the mood. Just again, I want to restate my innocence, that there's absolutely no evidence that will be presented in this case to indicate me as the guilty party. Let us just remember that I am a father. I'm actually a widower of I had a son who passed away, so I don't know if that's a widow, whatever that is, but he also went at the hand of this Dr. Sanchez. So we already have the murderer sort of in our midst, in our grasp. And Let me just check my notes. Father, then there is some concern that perhaps the contents of the materials that we discuss, the vape technology, did have some issues. And I think you're going to see through my testimony, through my evidence that I'm going to present, is that there is good evidence that perhaps the Chinese, the chemicals that they sent us, unbeknownst to us, were part of the problem. But again, I didn't have access to the materials. So, what else? I just want to close before we begin with, I just want to talk about Chris Delgado. Now, there's some amazing kids up here, and we've gotten to know some of them, gotten to know some of their families. These are the Electric Sun 20, right? But Christopher Delgado is important to me. They're all important to me. Let me just set that back, strike that. We're all important, especially these 20. But Chris haunts me, okay? Because before the festival sort of got underway, I think probably about 5 o'clock that day, I was setting up, I was getting my laptops all set up and sort of making sure everything was running smooth. And Chris Delgado comes up to me. And I only figured this out after, once the story comes out about who had perished and kind of got put the names to the faces. I thought, oh, I remember him, that's Chris Delgado. I had met Chris before the show, and he had come up to me. And he said, listen, I'm really excited about the show, and I'm excited to be here, but, and this is going to haunt me probably till the day I die. He said, if anything should happen to me today, and, you know, I hope it doesn't, I want you to know, I want the world to know, I want San Bernardino, everybody to know that he said to me, you didn't do anything wrong today. You didn't cause any trouble. And that's, what a prophecy, right? Because how would he know that something bad would happen? Of course, Chris and the Delgado family have been wonderful. They've been very supportive.
Objection, Your Honor, stating a conclusion.
I can't object during an opening statement, but...
Actually, he can.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Under this circumstance? Okay. Well,
We've gone beyond the scope of the opening statement, Mr. Heidecker.
I understand. I'm wrapping it up. Can I have permission to wrap it up?
Please confine it to the evidence.
The point I want to make is that this trial is as a kangaroo court. I am being unjustly tried, and I'm being unjustly prosecuted for crimes of which I did not commit. Okay? In conclusion, I would just like to wrap things up. What we have now is the opportunity to put this all behind us. No one's coming back. These kids aren't coming back. I got news for you. I got news for the parents. Nobody's coming back. Okay? They're gone. What happened, happened. But now, I'm trying to get the Tom Cruise Memorial Foundation, Arts Foundation, funding the Electric Sun 20 Music Foundation, okay? And my funds are frozen because of the charges against me. So I'm in a position now where I can't even give back to this wonderful community. I can't get the partnership with Guitar Center going, where we're giving out gift certificates to underprivileged kids so that we can get them getting laptops and them making beats, and then they'd be up on that poster. Okay? This is... a little word we want to hear in a couple days, innocent. So I can get back to doing the good work I've already started doing, starting the Electric Sun Music Foundation, which honors every single one of those kids, including Christopher Delgado. Okay? And we might even call it the Chris Fund, or the the Delgado Fund, okay? We want to honor these kids, and the best way we can do this is not slapping some phony charge against me, which is bullshit. I apologize.
Mr. Heidecker,
I apologize. It is BS. Okay? Throw the charges out. We found the criminal, we found the judge, we found this piece of S right here is the guy who belongs in jail, but you can't put a corpse in jail. Okay? You can't put, like I said on cinema, you can't put a corpse in the electric chair. So here I am. I'm the fall guy. But it's not going to go down like that because you guys are smart and good looking, and I'm glad you're here because I trust in your judgment. And all you have to do is say innocent. You can be a part of the foundation if you want. In other words, if you have music ambition in your heart, come to me. We'll figure it out. Okay? And thanks to my brothers for being here. You guys are keeping my spirits up, and they are my rock and roll. So, giving you a lot to think about. I got some witnesses coming during the trial.
Excuse me, Your Honor, can Mr. Heidecker wrap up his show?
yes, Mr. Heidecker, you represented to us 5 minutes ago. You were wrapping up.
I understand. I will just say thank you very much. And remember one thing, innocent, didn't do it. Was actually on stage doing, with my laptops, making my beats, DKR, when this happened. You could look at the timeline. I was up here, while all the unfortunate casualties were happening. So how is this guy, I'll say this when I interview other people, but how is this guy up here killing people down there? That's the only question I have to answer. It's on them to answer that. I don't have an answer for you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Heidecker. The jury is admonished that statements of Mr. Heidecker during his opening statement are not evidence he was not under oath. It was an opening statement, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay.
Is the prosecution ready to call its next witness?
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Detective William Ellis to the stand.
Do you swear, under the penalty of perjury, to tell the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the court, please.
Detective Bill Ellis, E-L-L-I-S.
Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
What is your rank?
I'm a lieutenant with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's.
Can you tell the court a little bit about your background and experience?
Yeah, I have 25 years experience in law enforcement. Last 15 as a detective in homicides. I also been on the SWAT team, hostage negotiation team. I've also worked in vice, narcotics, gangs. I'm a drug recognition expert, trained and certified.
That's quite a background, Detective.
Ha! Well, when you've been involved in law enforcement for 25 years, you dabble in everything you can get your hands on.
Yes, you do. Can you tell the court what you saw and what you experienced the day of the tragedy when you walked onto the grounds of the Electric Sun Desert Music Festival?
Yes, when I arrived at the festival, there was mass confusion and chaotic situation. There were people running and screaming and yelling, and there's bodies on the ground. The festival had no permit issued to allow the festival to begin. There was multiple code fire violations. There was no running water. The bathroom facilities were at best described worst conditions you can have. And there was not enough.
Objection, Your Honor. Hygiene. I do not believe the hygiene of the festival is on trial here.
Mr. Heidecker, you will have the opportunity to cross-examine Detective Ellis.
Appreciate that.
And there was inadequate security.
Can you tell us what you saw in this area?
Well, that is the area in which the vapor devices were being handed out.
Did you find injured victims on the ground near the vape area tent?
Yes, I did. In fact, we found approximately 75 vaporized devices scattered all over the ground in the hands of some injured victims.
To the best of your recollection, Detective, do these red dots represent the bodies of the deceased on the grounds of the festival?
Well, there's more than that, but yeah.
Oh, objection. There are more, the prosecution is making assumptions at this point. We have demonstrated that by their dots that absolutely don't refer to anything, as far as I can tell.
Overruled.
Did you see Mr. Heidecker in this area?
Yes, I did. In fact, when I first saw him, he didn't introduce himself as the organizer of the event, or he didn't have any idea who the organizer was. He said he was just a performer, and he didn't know who was in charge or organized the festival.
Who did Mr. Heidecker identify himself as?
He was just a musical performer.
Did you have any reason to suspect that he was more than just a music performer?
Yes, after we interviewed several witnesses, along with Mr. Sanchez, did find out that Tim Heidecker was, in fact, the organizer of the festival.
So you did see and speak with Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, I did.
Dr. Sand, as he's affectionately known by the defendant. What was Mr. Sanchez doing?
He was trying to administrate more vapor to a victim on the ground.
Let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly, Detective. Did you say that Mr. Sanchez, Dr. Sand, was trying to administer more vapor to a victim on the ground?
Yes, he had placed a vaporized device in the mouth of an unconscious victim to attempt to apply more vapor into the victim.
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
Detective Ellis, did Mr. Sanchez say why he was doing this?
Yeah, after myself and some officers saluted him, he just simply said he was trying to save his life.
I don't understand. He was trying to save the victim's life by administering more vape, which had actually caused the injuries. Is that correct? I don't understand the logic of that. Yes,
that was his logic. In fact, he was saying that in order to counteract the negative effect of the vapor, he had to administer more vapor into the victim.
So what did you do when he was trying to administer more vape into the victim?
Well, myself and two San Bernardino sheriffs, Gutierrez and Smith, physically pulled him away from the victim.
I think the answer to this question is fairly obvious to the jury, but why did you stop him from administering the vape?
In all my 25 years in law enforcement, I've never seen one paramedic, one medical doctor ever take an intoxicated person and put more intoxicant back into that same victim.
Did you detain Luther Sanchez?
Yes, I did. I transported him to San Bernardino County Sheriff's Station where I interrogated him for 2.5 hours.
Okay. Your Honor, we'd like to now play the Luther Sanchez interrogation video.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
Your full name is Luther Sanchez, S-A-N-C-H-E-Z, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You understand you're not under arrest? You are free to go anytime you want. I just want to ask you a few questions concerning what happened at the festival earlier today.
Okay.
Can you tell me what was in the vape pens that you guys gave away?
Just Chinese herbs that Tim and I pulled together a pretty powerful formula that used herbs that have been proven for thousands of years, and we got rid of some things that were trouble in the past. And we used some Cordyceps sinensis, which is a fungus that grows high up in the mountains of Nepal. And it's when a spore comes and lands on the head of a caterpillar, and it kills the caterpillar and uses all the material in the caterpillar as fuel to grow the fungus. And that has spiritual properties that just open people to see their potential.
Oh, okay. Do you have a name for this thing you have? What's it called?
That's Dong Chong Shiatsu.
Excuse me, what was it?
Dong, D-O-N-G, Chong, C-H-O-N-G, Xia, X-I-A, Zao.
Wow. Was there anything else inside of the pins besides this thing you just mentioned?
Yes, there was some venom from the toad, Bufo alvarius. That has chemicals that are in our bodies in high percentages when we're born and when we die. So it's kind of like a gateway chemical that enables us to pass from one life into another.
Okay. Who else was involved besides just you? Involved in all this stuff you guys?
Just Tim and I. Tim, we worked on this formula together.
Are you referring to Tim Heidecker?
Yeah.
Is he business with you, or what do you two guys do together?
He's kind of the idea man. He came up with the idea of these vape pens, and with my holistic healing background, we came up with the formula, worked on it and worked together, and he would go pick up the herbs from downtown Chinatown. And
What were you looking for to do with these vape pens? What do you want these kids to do?
we're looking for basically the opposite of what gets taught by the military. You know, how the military teaches you who to hate, and the media who they come up with, like, you know, now you hate this country, now you hate all these people. We just want to bring people together and have everyone realize that we're all on the same planet and we all have the same potential to open our minds to our different spiritual dimensions from throughout time, kind of beyond time. One of Tim's ideas was that he wanted everyone to experience the music on a cellular level, where...
On a what?
On a cellular level, where they would take a hit off the vape pipe and just, they would internalize the music and they would feel the beat just down on a microscopic level.
So you want to do some kind of psychedelic trip on them, so they can hear the music better, see the music, or taste the music. Is that what you're looking for?
Be completely immersed in just the music and almost like lose your body, and like when you're in an environment that is the same temperature on the outside as your body and you kind of lose track of where your skin is.
I never had that experience, no, but were you checking any IDs of any of the people that were coming up?
No.
No ID.
No, because, you know, like when...
Did you ever...
When the Republicans tried to...
Whoa. Just relax, okay? I'm asking the questions, okay? Just anybody who came up and gave you the money, you hand them a vape pen, is that right?
We weren't really worried that how old they were.
Well, you should be worried. How many people do you think got carried away and put in an ambulance? How many do you think?
Yeah, we didn't want to hurt anybody.
You don't want to hurt anybody? Well, you did. One girl was 12 years old. Have you ever been arrested before?
Yes, I have.
For what?
Just like misunderstandings.
Misunderstandings. No, there's no penal code section for misunderstanding. What were you arrested for? Were you arrested for drugs?
Just some bad checks.
Oh, bad checks, okay. Anything else? No, you will find out, so it's more beneficial for you if you tell me the truth now.
A little bit of cocaine stuff from 15 years ago when everyone was, you know,
I wasn't doing it. Selling or just using?
just a little bit of both.
Oh, a little bit of both. Large or small quantities?
I mean, that's all relative.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Are you doing small brands, or are you doing whole blocks? I'll find that. I can get that. Okay, here's what's going to happen, Mr. Sanchez. Based on my interview with you right now, I'm going to place you under arrest for Pinnacle PC 187, which is murder. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to have an attorney present before or during any question. If you cannot afford it, an attorney won't be appointed free of charge. Do you understand these rights I explained to you just now?
Yes.
Do you wish to further talk to me about what happened?
No, I'll wait for an attorney. What about Tim?
What about Tim? What do you want to know?
I mean, we were partners and we worked together on this, and I was...
I guarantee I'll be talking to Tim here pretty quick too. Is there anything else you want to say to me, or do you still want to wait for your attorney? Nothing you want to say about Tim? You to go down this by yourself?
We tried so hard to do something beautiful, and we worked on this together.
Didn't quite work, did it?
Detective Ellis, did you retrieve financial statement, invoices, and other files from the portable office of Mr. Heidecker on the festival grounds?
Yes, I did. And during our investigation, we gathered over 100 pieces of evidence pertaining to the evacuation, planning of the festival, and also the giveaway of the vaporizers.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, this is a invoice from a chemical company in Shanghai that was invoiced, sent to and signed by Tim Heidecker.
Okay, and what was the name of that company in Shanghai?
Can I get my report to refresh my memory?
Yes, you may.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Thank you. The name of the company is K2 Biochemical Ltd, based out of Shanghai.
Detective, what was purchased with this invoice?
The order was purchased was 5 kilograms of a chemical called DMMA 1.3 dimethylamine, also known as methylhexadenine.
Methylhexadenine.
Yes.
Quite a tongue twister there.
Yes, it is. It's
Objection.
A tongue twister?
Is it a tongue
Overruled.
twister? Is it officially a tongue twister?
Overruled.
Methylhexadenine is a synthetic stimulant drug, and the other dimethylamine is a liquid substance that bodybuilders use to enhance muscle growth.
Innocent. What category of drug is it?
Actually, it's a narcotic,
It's a narcotic.
analgesic narcotic.
Narcotic, I see. Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce this invoice into evidence.
Objection? It's received.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like you to examine another document, Detective Ellis.
Okay? Okay. This is a check signed by Tim Heidecker,
The defendant, Tim Heidecker.
yes, from the Tom Cruise Moral Arts Fund LLC. The amount of $3,687.60, which was the amount that the chemical company charged him for his 2 methamphetamine and dimethylamine.
And who was the check made out to?
The check was made out to K2 Chemical Solutions out of Shanghai.
Okay, so let me just reiterate, Detective, for the benefit of the jury. So this check was payment for the invoice of the narcotics, and signed by Mr. Heidecker, the narcotics that were used in the vape pipes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Where did you get a copy of this check?
Well, during our investigation, we went to the Valley Bank and presented them with a warrant to investigate Tim Heidecker's bank records and statements.
You tell me the relationship between the Tom Cruise Heidecker Memorial Arts Fund LLC and the defendant, Timothy Heidecker?
Yes, the Tom Cruise Heidecker Memorial Arts Fund LLC is a so-called charitable organization that is run by Mr. Tim Heidecker.
Objection. Speculation. He's insinuating that it's not a charitable organization. I think that's disrespectful to my late son and would want that stricken from the record. Thank you.
Sustained. Court reporter is ordered to strike the words "so-called" from the record.
Thank you, Your
The jury
Honor.
is instructed to disregard.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to admit this into evidence.
Objection.
No objection.
It is received.
Thank you. Detective Ellis, Dr. Sand talked about him being the idea man and Mr. Heidecker being the business person of the duo. I'd like you to examine this chart and tell me, based upon your research and investigation, the nature of the relationships between Mr. Heidecker and various business enterprises.
Well, with him, he was kind of simple. We just followed
If we follow the flow chart,
the full chart.
tell me if I'm correct. So we have Timothy Richard Heidecker, the defendant,
Yes.
doing business as Tom Cruise Heidecker Memorial Arts Fund. Now, there's no LLC, there's no S Corporation, C Corporation like that. They were all DBAs, is that correct?
Yes, so just simply DBAs. That's all they were. All they are just aliases all for Tim Heidecker.
Even though he did use symbols of these entities never existed. Okay. And the DBA actually had ownership through Mr. Heidecker in DKR Development Brands, TCH Vape Systems, is that correct?
That's correct.
TCH Films, and numerous other businesses, all owned by Mr. Heidecker.
All legal, but just basically they're just aliases all for Tim Heidecker.
So there were fraudulent enterprises.
Objection. There's nothing fraudulent about many of those companies that are proud American companies.
Sustained. Rephrase the question, please, Mr. Rossetti.
I apologize, Your Honor. The way these companies were represented to the public, Inc., LLC, other formal business organizations that typically have to be registered with the state of California, were not registered. And in that sense, they were fraudulent, sir.
Like I say, they're all legal. It's just that they're all just aliases for Tim Heidecker. Very simple and very easy to link all these companies with Mr. Tim Heidecker. It wasn't hard at all.
All of these companies, they were associated with the Tom Cruise Heidecker Memorial Arts Fund. In other words, Mr. Heidecker. It takes a lot of money to operate these companies. How did Mr. Heidecker fund them?
Well, during an investigation, we found out there was 2 separate life insurance payouts to Mr. Tim Heidecker.
2 separate life insurance payouts.
Yes, sir.
What were the amounts of those payouts?
$1 million each.
$1 million each. $1 million. It's a lot of money, Mr. Heidecker.
Thank you.
And who were the insured?
To his son, Tom Cruise Heidecker, who died in November 2015.
He died at 2 years old.
Roughly, yes.
And there were 2 policies, $1 million each made out. And the beneficiary was?
Tim Heidecker.
Tim Heidecker was the beneficiary of $2 million policies taken out on his 2-year-old son. Okay. Detective, would you say it's typical for someone to take out multiple $1 million life insurance policies on a newborn son?
No. It's highly unusual.
Thank you, Detective. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Heidecker, do you wish to cross-examine the witness?
I certainly do.
I remind you to keep the scope of your cross-examination to what was raised on direct only.
I understand. Detective Ellis, correct? Ellis?
Yes, sir.
And you said you were 25 years in the police department, 25 years.
Yes, sir.
You said that number of times. And you have any experience with any marks on your record, any police brutality, anything like that we need to know about? I don't think that was disclosed.
No.
Any issues?
You can run a pitcher's motion on them if you wish, but no.
Okay. And you never do drugs? You ever take drugs?
No.
You ever drink?
Yes.
Do drugs? Do you find there's a difference between those two activities?
Between drugs and alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Well, one gets intoxicated and one you get into a elite state or...
Okay. So there's no real difference between the two.
Yeah, they're both.
And so you've admitted now under oath. You're under oath.
Yes, I know. I'm under...
And you're...
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
We have a detective here who's claiming to be above others, and yet here he is, just like some of these. I strike the questions. The confession tape we got to enjoy, starring yourself and Mr. Sanchez. Was the footage edited in any way? Did you see any cuts? Were there things removed from the video?
What was said?
Was everything? Did we see the full interrogation of Mr. Sanchez today here in the courtroom? Yes or no?
Not the full, no.
Okay. So may I ask what was removed? And this is evidence tampering. Let's just let the record state.
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation?
We
Evidence tampering?
perhaps there's footage of Mr. Sanchez taking back everything he said.
Speculation?
Well, we don't know.
Mr. Heidecker, please refrain from speculation.
I'm asking the detective, is there footage on that tape that has been edited out which would exonerate me here today?
No.
And you're sure of that?
I'm very sure.
Okay. Defense requests the full transcript of the interrogation of Mr. Sanchez to corroborate that testimony today.
Witnesses testified there's nothing additional on that tape.
Okay. Are you fluent in Chinese?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, then we have some evidence that was submitted, written in Chinese, and you verified its authenticity. Is that as the court understood it?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm confused. What evidence was presented in Chinese?
There was evidence. There was a. Hold on. This chemical from C2. This was written in Chinese.
K2.
Look. So you approach the witness.
Yes, please.
This is Chinese.
Take your elbow off the bench, please. Thank
Pardon
you.
me. What does this say?
Well, I had interpreters at the station interpret that for me.
Okay. All right. We get bailiff. Clean that up. Somebody.
Will the bailiff please restore the easel to its previous position?
Thank you. You're a good detective?
Very good detective, yes.
And can you explain the concept of choice to the audience?
Choice?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Sustained.
Let me phrase the question. These, correct or incorrect, true or false, the Electric Sun 20, as they've become known, Matthew Salinas, the rest, chose to be they were not ordered by any kind of the state or the federal government to attend the music festival, as far as you know?
No, they came on their own free will, yes.
All right. And they ingested the vape juices on their own free will?
Yeah, but not know what was inside of it, no.
Thank you. And final question. this point, how extensively has the San Bernardino Police Department, county that you work for, investigated the Chinese role in this this scandal? In other words, have you traveled to Shanghai? Have you investigated the corporation that supplied the chemicals? Have you spoken with their chemists? Have you spoken with their CEOs and the executives at the chemical company?
No,
And you don't find that to be unusual?
we don't, no need to.
Okay.
We know where the chemicals came from. We know what the chemicals are.
But you can't say for certain that they were, if I had, which I dispute that evidence for the record, I believe the evidence was manufactured, concocted by the prosecutor. But that's another, hold on, that's another
The
issue.
evidence was admitted, you were given the chance to object,
Well,
and you did not make any objection at that time.
my point is, if you allow me to finish, that we believe that there was fraud on the part of the Chinese, which no one wants to talk about for PC reasons. Okay? I'm asking if you have explored that side of it.
No need to.
Here's what I'm asking, and all you have to do is say yes or no.
Okay?
Is there a possibility that the county here and the DA has hidden evidence to suggest?
Objection, Your Honor, mischaracterization.
Sustained.
Is there, let me ask you this, let me rephrase the question. Is there the possibility, yes or no, that the Chinese are responsible for duping me and Mr. Sanchez?
Objection, foundation.
Sustained.
Is there, did the Chinese dupe me and sell me a bill of goods?
Objection,
And
asked and answered.
Sustained.
is the county concerned? Is the county not investigating the Chinese link here for reasons of PC, political correctness? Do we believe that there is what I'm calling the Chinese connection as a part of it? Because somebody sold me a bill of goods, if that's the case, which it's not. Mr. Sanchez is the sole proprietor of the vape tent. I think that's been established. Can you confirm that?
Yes, but it was in your festival.
Okay. Isn't it true, Detective, that the only relationship that the defendant here has with myself, has with the true criminal, Mr. Sanchez, is that he just gave him a space to operate his vape distribution, health, whatever it was, that ended up hurting some of these children?
You don't understand, but you were the organizer of the festival. It was your name and your signature on the checks. It was a check from your son's charity that you got from your son's payoff from a life insurance policy.
Have you done?
You're the one who had all the names, and you had all the signatures on all the invoices.
Your Honor, I have to object. Mr. Heidecker is again badgering the witness. These facts have already been established. Documents have been admitted into evidence. We're wasting the time of the court, and this is...
Mr. Heidecker, the purpose of cross-examination is to elicit new information from the witness, not to engage in a debate.
I understand that, Your Honor. One more question, and I will allow the good detective to be on his way. Have you requested a handwriting analysis from the defendant?
No.
Further questions?
Redirect?
No, Your Honor.
You're excused. Prepared to call your next witness, Mr. Rossetti.
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Dr. Gerard Kearney.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the court?
Dr. Gerard Kearney. Kearney is spelled Kearny.
Thank you, sir. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your occupation, Dr. Kearney?
I am the chief medical examiner in the San Bernardino Medical Examiner's Office.
Okay, and how long have you been a medical examiner?
I've been medical examiner for 13 years.
I see. And how many homicide cases have you been a participant in?
Difficult to count. I'd say more than 30, maybe less than 100.
And you've had to ascertain the cause of death in most of those cases, I would assume.
Many of them, yes.
Many of them, I see. Were you able to ascertain the cause of death for the 20 deceased individuals?
Yes. In most cases, the results were identical. We experienced that there was a nervous system shutdown, asphyxiation. Victims' hearts had enlarged to 1.5 times the size of normal, but ultimately the result of death was due to cardiac arrest.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
I'd like to lay the foundation for this evidence. Can you tell me, Dr. Kearney, is this the toxicology report that you compiled?
Yes, it is.
And in compiling the report, you examined the victims.
Excuse me?
And in compiling the report, you examined the bodies of the victims.
That's correct.
I understand, okay. And the reports reflect your findings of those victims.
Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I would like to admit this into evidence.
Objection?
Excuse me?
Do you have an objection to this being admitted into evidence?
No.
It's
Okay.
received.
Exhibit 22. Thank you, Your Honor. I'll leave this here so you can refer to it.
Thank you.
Does someone who suffers from these symptoms feel pain as a result?
Yes.
Can you describe that to the court?
It is extreme pain. There's a sudden rush of inflammation, followed by a propensity to vomit, sometimes vomiting blood, and that's due to internal challenges with respiration, and it affects not only the lungs but the intestines.
Objection, speculation?
Overruled.
Dr. Kearney, these symptoms ultimately, in majority of cases, lead to death. Would that be a valid statement?
Many times, yes.
I understand. As that happened in this case, is that correct?
Many times, yes.
I see. What do you determine to be was responsible for the deaths of these individuals?
Toxicology results indicate that there was a presence of many toxic chemicals, of which when they're presented to a subject, they present symptoms which are very consistent with the injuries incurred by these victims.
Dr. Kearney, can you read for us the results of the toxicology report?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Caffeine was in the blood systems, as well as methylhexanamine, formaldehyde, benzene, as well as mercuric compounds.
Understand. And were these chemicals found in the bloodstream of all 20 victims?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kearney. Your Honor, we've concluded questioning of the witness.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Doctor, for coming down here, giving us some of your time. How do you determine the toxicality of a patient or a deceased patient?
Results are sent to a state crime lab where a myriad of studies are conducted in order to determine the possible presence of particular chemicals which we track.
Okay. And there's no tampering with these? We don't find evidence of?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So, for the record, is it common to use a paper test if you're testing chemicals? For example, if the court will allow, I take a piece of paper and I don't know. Let's say I have a cup of coffee. This is coffee. See that? Jury can see. This is just brewed coffee here from the courthouse. And say I dip it in like this. Is that going to make a chemical reaction? Is that going to tell me anything that I need to know about the chemical makeup of this coffee? For example, is that going to tell me if this is caffeinated or decaffeinated coffee? Because, you know, look it changes the color, but not much.
If that were a drug testing strip, it would indicate if drugs were in your coffee, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that all 20 of the Electric Sun 20 Music Festival attendees here on the board contained these so-called drugs that you had discovered. Is that testimony that you stand by, Your Honor? Or, sorry, defendant?
Is Sean Levin on that board?
Sean Levin is on that board. I'm glad you brought Sean Levin up. I want to talk about Sean Levin. Sean Levin is on the board, and right now, I'm being accused of his death, correct?
I'm not accusing anyone. I'm giving the results of the tests.
Isn't it true that Mr. Levin did not have these chemicals in his system at the time of death?
That is true.
So what is he doing on this board?
Sean Levin was known to have passed away due to a heroin overdose, and it was observed that he had not participated in the vape product. I cannot speak to why he's on the board.
Let me just make sure that the jury understands this. This Sean Levin right here had taken, you said it yourself, what was it?
He passed away due to a heroin overdose.
Passed away due to a heroin overdose. So is it fair to get this off? So is it fair to now state that no one is responsible for Mr. Levin's death except his own choices and whoever sold him the heroin that he ingested before coming to my festival?
Sir, I'm just here to give you the toxicology report.
Can you just answer my question?
I just did.
Objection, badgering the witness.
Sustained.
Well, we can all agree that Sean Levin does not belong on the board. Who else doesn't belong?
Excuse me, Your Honor, I have to object. Mr. Heidecker is not abiding by the decorum of this court, and I feel that this behavior should not be tolerated.
Your Honor, I'm being falsely accused. We've just had testimony here from the witness that this man did not even use the vape system. Who else didn't use the vape system? Who else didn't use the vape system? Your doctor,
I cannot
Dr.
speak to,
Kearney.
I cannot speak to who else is on the board that did not use it. Is that your question?
It is.
What I can tell you is that the chemicals that were present are consistent with what was in the device, the vape pen, and the chemicals that were loaded into the vape pen.
And your qualifications that
Objection
allow...
asked and answered.
Sustained.
Your Honor, Judge Sislik, we have already established one doctor who turned out to be a quack, Dr. Sand. So now we're being asked to believe that now they're bringing this doctor in. It begs the question, do you have your diploma? Where did you go to school?
Mr. Heidecker, it is a thin line between attacking a witness's credibility and character assassination. You are dangerously close to that line right now.
Okay, I'll rephrase the question. Your jury, we've already established that one doctor in this case, Dr. Sand, is not a doctor. And yet the prosecution brings Dr. Kiernan.
Dr. Kearney.
Kearney, okay.
Objection, Your Honor, Dr. Sand was introduced by the defense as
was-
part of their defense. So the prosecution did not introduce Dr. Sand as a doctor.
Mr. Heidecker, do you have reason to question this witness's credentials?
I accept his credentials, Your Honor. But I ask that the jury consider that we all may not keep an open mind when considering who any of us are, or who any of our credentials are. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Who else belongs to be taken off that board? Do you have an answer?
I have an answer. My answer is that the toxicology reports show that everyone on that board had chemicals in their body consistent with what was in the vape device and the vape chemicals.
And you're sure of that?
Yes.
Objection asked and answered.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Sustained.
Enough. Thank you. On no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Kearney. You are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Rossetti, you prepared to call your next witness?
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Greg Turkington to the stand.
Do you swear under penalty of perjury to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Mr. Turkington.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for being here with us today. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Greg Turkington, Turkington.
And Mr. Turkington, can you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I co-host and I'm sort of the resident expert on a show called On Cinema at the Cinema.
Objection. He is not a host. He's a guest. On the
Well,
show.
co-host and resident expert.
In
And
the
then,
world, you will have the opportunity to cross-examine Mr. Heidecker.
Fair enough. He's committing perjury. Is my only.
Mr.
And then I play the
Turkington, how
Master of
many
Codes on
episodes have
Decker.
you been on?
all of them. Or there's a couple that I wasn't in because Tim was in jail for murder, so I had to host the show, which I'd already done many times, so it was really easy for me.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
I was going to say I also play Kington on Decker, which is the show that Tim and I created that's sort of a spy type show. And then I was Dale in the Ant-Man movies.
So aside from the Ant-Man movies, you and Mr. Heidecker have worked together over a number of years.
Yeah, I think initially we started working together, and then more it was me bringing in the movie expertise and doing 90% of the work.
And can you just repeat for the jury, what is the name of the show, the cinema show?
On Cinema at the Cinema. And then there's segments like On Cinema on Location. and
Now,
it's different.
did Tim Heidecker ever appear on Cinema at the Cinema with Luther Sanchez?
A lot. And those were the worst rated episodes because he started taking a show where people would tune in to get movie information and putting Dr. San on to give medical information, which is not what the viewers wanted. And also, that would cut out segments that I was producing that people were actually interested in. And you would see the ratings just plummet because we got away from the movies.
So you're saying because it was on Cinema at the Cinema and they weren't talking about the cinema?
No, he changed it to On Cinema on herbal medicine or on acupuncture or these sorts of things that no one was interested in.
Now, do you remember whether or not on April 10th, Mr. Heidecker and Mr. Sanchez were on the show?
Probably.
Did they ever come on the show to promote the Electric Sun Desert Music Festival?
Yeah, they did. And it ruined the show because I had 2 popcorn classics lined up for that day, and I'd done the research and brought in the information, and then I see Dr. San is there, who had been estranged from Tim for a long time because they had a falling out. And then suddenly he got back into Tim's world and was completely, Tim was completely under his thumb.
Now, when Mr. Heidecker was on the show with Mr. Sanchez, did they present the TCH vape system as a product they were working on together?
It was one of a lot of products of stuff that Tim was advertising instead of talking about movies because he didn't watch the movies in the later days of the show.
Objection.
And so he would fill the time up with
Speculation.
this sort of stuff.
Hello. Objection. Speculation.
Well,
Let
I would
me
I would
rephrase-
get the tickets for the screenings and go, and he wouldn't be there.
Objection.
And these were sneak previews.
Let me-
Objection! Relevance!
I will rephrase the question, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, Judge, are you going to put this court in order or not?
Mr. Heidecker, are you going to conduct yourself like a decent human being or
He's
not?
throwing my name under the bus, and you're not doing anything to stop it.
Mr. Heidecker, you will have the opportunity to cross-examine and clear yourself. Please confine your objections to evidentiary objections under the California Evidence Code.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Let me restate the question. Did Mr. Heidecker ever promote the TCH vape system on the show with
Yes,
Mr. Sanchez?
constantly. And he would work the vapes
Objection!
into
Constantly?
Overruled.
He would also work the vapes into episodes of Decker, which was an action show that we did together, and he would work the plot so that he had the vape at all times and other characters even had the vape to advertise it, I think.
Okay, so let me just keep you on camera, or excuse me, on cinema at the cinema. Now, did he ever promote the vape system while you were hosting the show?
While I was co-hosting it, yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, we'd like to show a clip to the jury of a promotion that took place on the show.
Objections?
No objections.
Please proceed.
I'm having a good time with that. We're not getting a lot of rest because we've been prepping for the Electric Sun Desert Music Festival coming up in a couple this coming week. Actually, it's sneaking up on us. And I got an awesome plan, and I've got just an awesome opportunity for everybody that's coming because basically, me and the good doctor San and I have developed this very special blend of what I'm calling the TCH vape system in honor of my dearly departed. And we're going to be giving away as much as we can this weekend. So if you come to the music festival, you'll be getting a free TCH vape system kit. Sets you up with the beautiful machine here and the preloaded and USB cable. And stick around. We got Dr. Sand coming in who's going to talk all about this. He's going to be at the festival doing lectures on proper usage of the vape system, the TCH vape system arrangement. And all right, cool.
Now, Mr. Turkington, does this clip accurately portray the promotion you were talking about that occurred on the show?
Yes, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
So at this time, Your Honor, we'd like to have this clip admitted into evidence as Exhibit 35.
Objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
It is admitted.
Thank you. Now, was this promotion commercial ordinarily a part of the program?
Not at all. I mean, because we'd review 2 movies, recent movies, and then I would do a popcorn classic, which is an old movie that I would bring in from my collection, from my archive on videotape, and sort of highlight that and talk about the cast and the, just information about the movie. And we would give the movies ratings on a 1 to 5 bag of popcorn scale. And then we would have outside segments. We had one called Golden Age Comedy, where we looked at old classics and had W.C. Fields review them. And we had another one that was on cinema on location, where I would go to, say, locations for movies like Oh God, and show you what it looks like now as opposed to what it looked like when it was filmed in the movie. And all those were really popular segments, and the show's ratings were just up. And then when we start getting away from that, well, not we, but when Tim started getting away from that stuff, then the ratings started going down because nobody cares about vapes or vape commercials. If Siskel and Ebert had been selling cigarettes in their time, they would have lost the ratings as well.
So you're saying that these advertisements or this promotion was not requested by the network or an outside sponsor?
No, and I hated it because it would get in the way of my segments And sometimes Tim would promise, because he was out of his mind on these vapes a lot of the time anyway, and he would make these promises that he wouldn't come through on. Like he would say, okay, well, let's talk about this music festival, or let's play a song from DKR, which is a group nobody likes. And then
Objection.
And then in return, you can do 2 popcorn classics next week. But then next week rolls around and I don't get to do any popcorn classics.
So, did you observe any effects that the vape system had on Mr. Heidecker?
Well, yeah, you saw in the videotape, well, first of all, he stopped watching movies because if he would go to the movie theater to do his job, which is to review the movies, he'd fall asleep really fast because he was zonked out of his mind on the stuff. And then we had a movie theater that I was curating and programming and managing and doing everything. And he would come in and take the money out of the cash register to get more drugs or whatever. And then he eventually burned the theater down, which you probably saw in the news locally in Victorville. And he burned it down to get more insurance money. It was a case of arson. And this is something that I had put all this time into trying to build into this business. People like movie buffs were talking about it online. People were coming from all over. A guy came down from Las Vegas to one of our screenings. We had a Meg Ryan festival over the weekend, and the guy came all the way down, and we were really starting to build something. And then he burned it down, which is actually the 3rd time that he had burnt my collection of movies. And always in a hostile fashion because he didn't like the fact that I was the movie expert and he was becoming really not important to the show anymore. And actually a hindrance because he would talk about these other things, like this band that there's no fans of DKR or Dakar. 0 fans. Nobody likes it.
Now, did he ever offer you one of the vape systems?
He offered them to everybody, but I would not take that. And you watch a good movie, that's the greatest high you're going to get, is watching something like Casablanca for the 10th time and you see something completely different than you've ever seen before. There's a new depth to a certain scene. That's a high that I can live with.
So you're definitely a movie buff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm known as an expert. And in fact, if you have the latest Guinness Book of World Records, look me up in there, and you can see that I watched 501 movies in 501 days.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Can you describe for us a little bit what you observed about Tim Heidecker's relationship with Luther Sanchez?
Have you seen the show Decker that we did? Have you ever seen that show? The
I've
TV
seen
show?
clips.
Okay. All you need to know about his relationship with Dr. Luther San is watch the episode where Dr. San brings in a vape. Tim is dead. His character of Decker has died. And Dr. San inhales the vape and breathes the vape on Tim's dead body and brings him back to life.
And so for you, that's analogous to their relationship.
Yeah. That's how he believed. He believed Dr. San could do no wrong, except there was this 2-year period where he thought Dr. San had done wrong, and he was trying to arrest him because he had gotten infections from the acupuncture needles. And I thought that was the last we'd ever see of Dr. San, but then a couple years later, he brings him back into his life and lets him give herbal treatments to his son, and Dr. San said, don't vaccinate your son. And Tim went along with this, and little Tom got very, very sick. It was clear to anyone that he needed to be hospitalized. And Dr. San said, no, I can take care of it with these, blowing smoke on him or whatever it was, until the point that the kid died.
Now,
And that's why Ayaka is not in the picture anymore, his wife, because of that kind of behavior from him.
so you say that Mr. Decker was under the influence of Luther Sanchez. Did you happen to observe any other substances that Mr. Decker used? Heidecker, excuse me.
Objection. She clarified. I retract.
My apologies for misstating your name.
Please address your comments to the bench and not to other counsel.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I mean, it seemed like the vape was the real problem. Before that, he would have periods where I didn't know what he might be on because he was acting very erratic. He got into motorcycles and just different things like that and hanging out with different sorts of people, and who knows. But you can definitely, if you go back and watch the episodes, and I think that you should just for the movie information, but you can definitely see the decline in quality of what he brought to the table. He's always a good host. He's always very, very good at hosting. But initially, he was a good host, but he was also a good, knowledgeable critic. And we would have really informed discussions about whether or not you should go see the latest movie. But then a few seasons in, it's clear he's not even watching the movie, and he's getting the names, he's garbling the names of the actors, and just, and then the reason that I would be suspicious of anyone that he puts on the stand, because he's willing to tell people to lie under oath, because he told me to lie on the show and say that I'd never seen the movie Sully.
Objection,
and he made
Your
me
Honor.
say that, but I had seen the movie several times, and so I wouldn't trust any witnesses that he brings up.
Objection, Your Honor. Is my role as a host of a TV show on trial?
I am going to direct the jury to disregard comments about Mr. Heidecker inciting people to be dishonest.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to let the rest of the answer stand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Turkington, in your opinion, do you think Tim Heidecker was aware of the toxic substances in the TCH vape system?
I mean, I think if he thought it would kill people, he wouldn't have given it to them. But I just don't think he did the tests that he should have, from what I'm seeing, from what I'm hearing, I mean, they kept changing the formulation because he would get sick and he would be out of it, and then they would change the formulation. And Dr. Sand was always talking about all these herbs and things, but I mean, a lot of those herbs, they're things that you would find in, Celestial Seasonings tea, and clearly that's not what these kids were on. So there was something else in the pens. And you could smell it too, because when he would vape, it didn't smell like, mint tea. It smelled like tires burning, or like brake pads when you go down like the Grapevine or something, and the truck's brake pads are burning up. That was what it would smell like, and his breath would, if you were around him, there'd be like a metallic quality to just his breath, or this rubber quality burning.
And did Mr. Heidecker ever speak about the contents of the vape fluid on the show, on Cinema? Specifically August 17th?
I mean, he would just always talk about everything he was involved in like it was great, like the band has the #1 download. Well, that's not verifiable. And then this restaurant that he turned the movie show, he turned it into a cooking show, and then he's saying the food is so great when it was just all frozen stuff that they were getting from the supermarket.
Objection.
So I don't think he was
relevance.
detail oriented. I doubt that he knew what was in the vape. He probably was just smoking it, and if he got high, then he's like, I love this stuff, let's make more of it, because he's very from the hip.
Just to narrow it so that we don't raise any objections. So do you remember whether or not he talked about the contents of the vape fluid?
He probably did.
Your Honor, we'd like to show a clip regarding the show where Mr. Heidecker did speak about the contents in
Yeah.
the vape system.
Objections?
No.
Proceed.
I told you I'm going to have this opportunity to explain myself. I went to after last week's taping, I went to the clinic and had my blood tested. And the doctor came in with his mouth wide open. He said he couldn't believe the substances that were in my body and the levels by which they were at in my body. There were high levels of speed, synthetic marijuana, synthetic cocaine, PCH, some PCH 911 or something like that. He said I would have been dead if I had not come in. Now let that sink in.
And do you, now that you've seen the clip, do you remember?
Yeah,
this
I
taking
remember
place on the
that.
show?
Yeah.
So, Your Honor, we'd also like to admit this into evidence.
Objections?
None.
It is so admitted.
Mr. Turkington, we really thank you for coming in and talking to us today.
Yeah, I wanted to also mention that he had borrowed money from me to pay for plane tickets to shoot Decker, Hawaii, and never paid back any of the money. This was like $10,000 worth of money. And then he goes and gets all this $1 million from the insurance, and I kept asking for the money, and I would never get any of it back. So there's a pattern of that kind of deceit and fraud and lying and taking advantage and all that sort of stuff.
The court will
been
admonish the
established.
witness to restrict his comments to direct responses to questions.
Okay.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Turkington.
Yeah,
Your
it's fine.
witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Turkington. You say you have expertise in movies?
Yeah. I run the Victorville Film Archive, which is the largest collection of movies in North America currently.
And that's verified how? How are we
From
ver-
movie buffs.
Okay, and you don't have any formal degrees
Well,
from
I think a
film.
mention
Excuse me.
in the Guinness
Excuse
Book
me.
of World Records is pretty formal.
Objection, Your Honor. He asked the witness a question the witness is trying to answer.
He's interrupting me, Your
Please-
Honor.
Please allow the witness to answer the question.
I am
Proceed.
trying,
Mr. Heidecker,
Mr. Sisnick, I'm trying to ask him a question. He interrupted me. That's on the
I was
record.
answering.
Well, can I
Mr.
restate the
Heidecker,
question?
you asked one question, he was in the process of responding to that question, and you asked another question.
Okay, I retract.
Remember my comments about decorum?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You do not have a degree in film studies from any major university,
Well, the
correct?
people that do generally don't even like movies. That's
Okay.
that's like a world that I would not like. That guy. We had a guy.
I get a yes or
you
no
put on
in
the
this-
show.
can I get a-
Larry
can I get a
Truman,
yes
who
or
was the
no
worst
in this
guest
room?
we ever had on the show, and he has got a film degree and teaches film studies, but he couldn't tell any of the viewers anything about the movies we were reviewing. He was the worst guest we ever had.
Mr. Turkington, please answer only the question that is asked.
All right.
Do you have a degree from a major film university?
No, that would be a hindrance.
All right, we've established that. Mr. Turkington, would you state for the record, you have or have not seen me, the defendant, ingest the THC vape system in your
I have.
presence? You have?
Lots of times.
Okay. And would you, yes or no question again, please, I ask, would you consider me alive as we are in the courtroom right now, breathing, a living being, alive, human being?
Today, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Other days, I wasn't so sure. That's why we had an intervention for you.
Well, I'm either alive or I'm not.
Well, yeah, you're alive.
There you go. Thank you. That's the only question I have there. So you've seen me use the substance
Yeah.
that these kids use, and does
You
it?
were using the prototype. It wasn't the same one.
But does it cause you any curiosity? Is there anything curious to you? Any sort of interest to the fact that my reaction is proof, is living proof that the reactions might vary from case to case?
Well, a lot of people take heroin, but not everyone dies from it right away.
Okay.
Who knows? If you'd vaped the
Are
next
you in-
night, you might be dead too.
And are you a medical expert? Do you have
No, but I've seen lots of medical movies, like Panic in Needle Park is a movie about the heroin epidemic in New York City.
Would you agree that the film clip we saw where I listed the dangerous chemicals in the THC vape system was the precursor, they edited it by the way, that is a precursor to me and Dr. Sand, excuse me,
Mischaracterization of the evidence.
Sustained. Jury will disregard.
that Dr. Sand and I adjusted the formula to be safer, took out the dangerous
It
chemicals?
looks like you adjust to be less safe because all these kids died.
Oh, I don't
20
think this is
kids
very
died,
funny,
so-
Mr. Turkington. I do not think this is very funny.
Neither is the court, by the way.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I have to object. There's obviously animosity between the witness and the defendant, and I think this line of questioning is unproductive.
Going to allow the line of questioning, but once again admonish Mr. Heidecker to please stick to the case. I'm also going to admonish the witness once again to please answer the question that is asked. Do not volunteer any information.
One final question I want to raise with you, Mr. Turkington. You're familiar with the substance commonly known as black mold?
Yeah. It's in a lot of homes. It gets in carpeting and
Is it true that your apartment was discovered to contain large amounts of black mold prior to the defendant, myself, and my family, my wife Ayaka, and my newborn son Tom Cruise Jr. Moved into the apartment?
Objection. Relevance?
Sustained.
work on that, Judge. Black mold, we'd all agree, is a dangerous, potentially toxic substance.
Well, I mean, we live here in California. We have an ocean bordering on the side, so you have moisture in the air, so you get
Okay.
mold and all kinds of things. I've seen newspapers get moldy. Archivists that I know that collect clippings about movies. Sometimes they've had their collections that were in storage get ruined through mold or leaking rainwater.
I'm just asking if you believe that, I'll rephrase the question to please the court. Do you believe that the death of my son, the defendant's son, Tom Cruise Jr. Heidecker, was a result of your black mold in the apartment and your miscarriage
because I wasn't living there at that time. I was
Objection,
gone.
Your Honor.
Excuse me.
Asking the witness-
If you're
Sustained.
well,
I have given you plenty of latitude on this line of questioning, Mr. Heidecker, and you've not taken us anywhere with it other than further animosity between you and the witness.
I ask your in your infinite wisdom, Judge, that you offer me this opportunity to connect dots, because we have. Yes or no, do you believe that the
No.
black mold in your apartment was responsible for the death of my son, Tom Cruise Heidecker? Yes or no, Mr. Turkington?
No, and if there was mold that you thought was a problem, you should have cleaned it out because you were in the apartment for several months before he died.
Shutting it down.
Okay. Well, I will be calling Mr. Turkington during my time to
Right.
present evidence, because
I have more stories to tell.
As is your privilege.
there's some stuff you need to know about him that will, believe me. And thank you, everybody.
Any redirect?
No, Your
No,
Honor.
Your Honor.
Mr. Turkington, you are dismissed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
No further questions.
Seeing the hour, the court will now declare that we are adjourned. Thank you all.
All right.
I've never seen a proceeding like this. I've never seen a proceeding like this.
Okay. Same time tomorrow, we're kind of just chipping away, you know, because at this rate, they're kind of, they don't have a lot of angles to take from. You guys want to get some lunch? We can go jam.